Nigeria has an electricity problem. Here is Dr. Reuben Abati on the flagship morning show on Arise News.
This is what has been part of the problem within this sector in Nigeria. The transmission company is blaming the DISCOs. The DISCOs are blaming the GENCOs. The DISCOs and the GENCOs are blaming the government. And then we hear about subsidies. And despite the fact that we hear about these subsidies, we, the ordinary people of Nigeria, do not get the benefits of these subsidies. These subsidies appear fictional in terms of the impact on the ordinary man that needs steady power supply for economic growth and development, which is one of the major points in President Tinubu's 8-point agenda. However, this is coming at a good time, this consultation, at a time when only this week, the national grid collapsed completely for the third time in 2023.
Nigeria's electricity value chain is plagued by illiquidity and debt. There's no money.
In July of 2023, Arise News covered the commissioning of the Decade of Gas Secretariat in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. President Tinubu's special advisor on energy said the president is committed to supporting the players in the sector.
Investment, climate issues, policy direction, a lot of those things are important, and the president is very committed to supporting the secretariat and all the different partners in the private sector in working towards this and making sure that we deliver key projects starting immediately.
It was revealed that legacy gas debts of the power sector to gas suppliers was between $700 million to $1 billion. Ed Ubong, immediate past president of the Nigerian Gas Association and coordinator of the Decade of Gas Secretariat, said, quote, "It is clear to us that we need to provide comfort to investors by clearing the arrears that the gas companies are owed, particularly for gas supply to power."
One of the issues facing Nigeria's electricity sector is cost-reflective tariffs, a lack of cost-reflective tariffs. Nigeria's electricity sector has damaging subsidies. Here is Mustapha Chikeobi, the chairman of the Bank Directors Association of Nigeria.
Subsidies are blunt economic instruments. They generally cannot be targeted and they're not sharp. So I'm against all forms of subsidy, but I welcome interventions that are targeted. There's 3 subsidies that are killing Nigeria. The PMS subsidy, the FX subsidy, which I think is the most dangerous of them, and then there's electricity subsidy. Those 3 subsidies gulp, in my estimation, over 10 trillion naira a year.
Nigeria's 3-headed subsidy dragon.
Now, President Tinubu addressed 2 out of 3 of those dragons. Standing in front of one of them right now, we all remember those famous words at his inauguration.
On fuel subsidy, unfortunately, the budget that I've glimpsed before I assumed office and what I've heard is that no provision is there for fuel subsidy. The first subsidy is gone.
The currency was also devalued, with multiple FX windows collapsed in an effort to liberalize the exchange rate. But there's one subsidy remaining that the president is unwilling to remove for now: electricity. Here's what the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, said at a press briefing. "You cannot jump overnight and implement the cost-reflective tariff. I can tell you that till today, the government still subsidizes power. For political reasons and empathy, you cannot cause additional burden on Nigerians." But how much has Nigeria spent on electricity subsidies in recent years? According to Sanusi Garba, the chairman and CEO of the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, between 2015 and 2022, almost 2 trillion naira. The projection for 2023, 600 billion. And the projection for 2024, 1.6 trillion. During a panel session for the release of the World Bank's latest Nigeria Development Update report, I asked Nigeria's Minister of Finance, Wale Edu, about the electricity subsidies. Minister Adelabu has said a month ago in November that the president is not willing to remove electricity subsidies because of the cost of living impacts on Nigerians. But at the same time, an Electricity Act has been signed that is supposed to give states the wherewithal to be able to attract investment. So how you can attract investment in the electricity sector when you're still keeping subsidies in place is the question. So with that context, I guess, do you agree that more needs to be done according to the World Bank?
To respond and interact.
He evaded the question.
So that
I asked Nigeria's Minister of Trade and Investment about non-oil exports, and during her answer, we were all reminded about Nigeria's power issues. There are some who do not agree that all eyes should be on the CBN, because CBN doesn't generate dollars out of thin air. It's like going to your account manager and saying, why isn't my salary going up? You have to make the money and then the account manager manages it. The Ministry of Trade and Investment is what some say should be the focus of the country in terms of attracting investment. We continue to talk about how we want to boost the non-oil economy, but I'm sure, Minister, you saw the latest trade figures in the third quarter. Our foreign trades in goods. 18 trillion naira total trade. Exports was 10 trillion, imports was 8. Out of that 10 trillion, 9.6 was crude oil. So it's still an economy that is very, very much dependent on crude oil. So what are your plans to grow the non-oil economy? And specifically, more specifically, what are your plans to attract the investments as the Ministry of Trade and Investment into Nigeria that can give the CBN the liquidity it needs for price stability?
And your question, I was wondering how many hours do I have to answer that question?
Take as long as you like.
We realize that the value addition to those raw materials provide us more FX revenue. So now the administration is now focusing on processes or policies that will help to facilitate the creation of industries that will add value to our raw materials. And the president categorically came out saying, we need to do away.
Oh dear, oh dear. The lights went out while we were speaking, right?
The depreciation of the naira is what has created the immediate challenge, right? Because many of the cost-reflective tariffs are linked to the exchange rate. So this is a problem that government is fully aware of. What I've heard the president say is, look, at this point, given all the pain that the population has already endured, we're going to take our time.
Nigeria has to fix her electricity issues. Her economic future depends on it. For Rise News, Rotus Oddiri.